Oh, wait, let's dive into this. We're looking at one single week for OpenAI, January 11th through the 18th, 2026. And honestly, the numbers coming out are just they're staggering.
They really are. It's one of those weeks where you see the headlines, but the story underneath the headlines is a massive strategic shift.
Right. Because we have to start with the financial bombshell. Sarah Friar, OpenAI's CFO, she revealed their annual revenue run rate has hit $20 billion.
20 billion.
That's a 10x jump from 2023.
It's an absolutely massive number. I mean, to get to a $20 billion run rate that fast it's basically unprecedented in software. But what's so wild is that despite that income, this is the week they completely pivot their business model.
Exactly. It's like they looked at 20 billion and said, okay, good start, but we need so much more. The theme this week feels less like, look at our cool AI research, and more like, how do we fund a $1 trillion infrastructure vision?
And that's really what this deep dive is about. We're moving past smarter chatbots. This is the official end of the research preview era and the beginning of what they're calling mass utility.
So we're talking budget subscriptions, the arrival of ads, a huge chip deal, and even kind of a sci-fi investment in brain-computer interfaces.
The full stack pivot.
So let's start with the tech itself, because the money's scaling, but the models are. They're changing what they do. On January 14th, we got GPT-5.2 Codex. Now, Codex means coding, but this doesn't feel like just a better autocomplete.
No, it's an architectural shift. It's optimized for what's called agentic coding. We've been using LLMs as, generators. You give a prompt, gives you text back.
A very smart parrot.
In a way, yeah. Agentic coding is different. It's built for long horizon tasks.
So instead of asking it, write me this Python function, you're pointing it at a whole project and saying, hey, go refactor our entire login system.
Exactly. And to do that, the model can't just predict the next word. It has to act like a software engineer. It has to, read the code, plan the change, run a test, see that it broke something else, fix that, and then commit the code. It's a whole different level of persistence.
Which would explain the other big API news from that day. They're winding down GPT 4.5. I saw a lot of developers complaining about that.
It's a forced migration, really. GPT 4.5 was a workhorse, but it's just not efficient for this new agentic world. They're retiring that old infrastructure to get everyone onto the new 5.2 and the O series models.
They need the whole ecosystem on the new rails.
And speaking of rails, we have to talk about the plumbing. On the 15th, they released Agent Kit. To most people, this just sounds like boring developer stuff, but maintaining state is, well, it's everything.
It's the barrier to making AI actually useful, right?
Yeah.
State is just a fancy word for memory.
It is. If you ask an AI to book a flight, it has to remember the dates you want while it clicks through 3 different websites. Without state, it forgets what it's doing from 1 second to the next.
Like having a conversation with someone with no short-term memory.
Exactly. Agent Kit solves that. It lets the AI click buttons, browse the web, and use software while remembering where it is in a process. It's the difference between an AI that can talk about booking a flight and one that actually books it for you.
So the tech is moving from chat to action. But actions, well, they cost a lot of compute. And that takes us to the most controversial part of the week, the business model.
This is where things get really interesting. On January 16th, the global launch of ChatGPT Go.
In over 170 countries. But the price? $8 a month. That's what jumped out at me. We've all been trained to expect $20 for the pro tier. Why undercut themselves so much?
Because they're splitting the user base. You've got your prosumers, the developers, the researchers who need the deep, slow thinking models. They'll stay on the $20 plus tiers.
But then you have everyone else. The synthetic consumer, the student who needs help with homework, or someone drafting an email.
Right. And they don't need a model that takes 10 seconds to reason. They just need an answer, and they need it fast. The $8 tier runs on GPT 5.2 Instant. It's super high speed, low latency. You get way more messages, but you sacrifice some of that cognitive depth.
It's the commoditization of good enough intelligence.
But even at $8 a month, the math for building those massive Stargate data centers, it doesn't quite work. And that's where the other shoe dropped. Ads.
I feel like I distinctly remember them saying ads were a last resort.
Well, welcome to the last resort. They announced testing ads in the free and go tiers. And if you read Sarah Friar's blog post, she uses the phrase, revenue funding the next leap. Running these models is it's outrageously expensive.
But they're adopting the Google model.
The Google, the Meta model. Basic access gets subsidized by ads.
Okay, but the privacy implications there are huge. I mean, the things people tell ChatGPT.
Which is why they were so specific about the guardrails. They know trust is everything. The ads are contextual, so if you're talking about running shoes, you might get an ad for running shoes.
So it's based on the current chat, not my entire personal history from across the web.
That's the promise. No cross-site tracking. And this is crucial. Advertisers can't influence the AI's answers. You won't ask, what's the best running shoe, and get a paid answer.
And no sensitive topics, like health or politics.
Correct. If you're asking about medical symptoms, the ad system is supposed to just turn off for that conversation. It's a very fine line to walk.
So let's talk about the infrastructure that all this money is for. On January 14th, they wrote a check that signals a completely different hardware strategy, $10 billion to Cerebras.
Yeah, for the hardware nerds, this was the biggest news of the week. For years, AI chips just meant NVIDIA, and OpenAI just committed to 750 megawatts of compute from Cerebras instead.
So for anyone who doesn't follow the chip wars, why do that? What does Cerebras have that NVIDIA doesn't?
Latency. It all comes down to latency. NVIDIA makes GPUs. You take a big silicon wafer, you slice it up into hundreds of tiny chips, and then you wire them all back together. That wiring creates a bottleneck.
Speed bumps.
Exactly. Cerebras builds wafer-scale chips. They don't cut the wafer up. The entire dinner plate-sized wafer is one single massive processor.
So the data never has to leave the chip to get to another one.
Right. And that makes the delay, the latency, almost disappear. And that connects right back to the agent conversation. If you want an AI that can code in real time, it can't be slow. The thinking models we use now, they're slow. You see that little spinner?
That wait is fine for a chat. It's not fine if it's supposed to be doing work for you.
It's fatal for an agent. This Cerebras deal is them buying speed. Time to first token, as they call it.
That's a massive amount of power, though. 750 megawatts is, what, a small city?
It's a huge energy draw, and that is why on January 13th, right before the deal, they made that pledge to pay our own way on energy.
That had to be a response to President Trump's comments just the day before about AI straining the grid.
Almost certainly. The political heat is on. So OpenAI put out a request for proposals to boost U.S. manufacturing for things like cooling and power systems. They're basically saying we'll build our own power grid if we have to.
It's less like a software company and more like an industrial utility at this point.
They're securing their own silicon, their own supply chain, their own power. It's total vertical integration.
So we've got the tech, the money, the power. But there's a really messy human element here, too. Governance. Specifically about who is allowed to use what.
This was the sleeper story of the week, I think. The details on age prediction and adult mode.
Age prediction usually just means a checkbox that everyone ignores.
Right. This is different. They're using a model that analyzes your behavior, the complexity of your sentences, your vocabulary, even the time of day you use it, to guess if a user is under 18.
Wow. That sounds incredibly invasive. An AI profiling my writing style to guess my age.
It is. But their VP of product, Fiji Semo, said it's the absolute prerequisite for them to launch adult mode later this year.
We've heard Sam Altman hint at this for a while. The idea of allowing NSFW content, maybe even erotica, for adults who are verified.
It's a huge untapped market. And a public-facing company can't touch it unless they are legally certain that minors are kept out.
So behavioral analysis is the gatekeeper.
It has to be. And it fits with their other safety updates, like the new GPT 5.2 being better at detecting emotional reliance.
Which is becoming a real problem, people forming these deep bonds with the AI.
Definitely. The new safety layers are designed to spot when that reliance becomes unhealthy or veers towards self-harm, and then it's supposed to direct people to real help, like the 988 lifeline.
It's such a strange push and pull. They're making the AI more capable and human-like, while also building systems to stop us from treating it too much like a human.
That's the paradox of putting this stuff out there for everyone.
Okay, I want to close on partnerships, because they give us a hint of where this is all going long term. There were 2 deals this week that paint a very clear picture.
One is super practical, and the other is, well, it's pure cyberpunk.
Start practical. January 18th, ServiceNow.
This one didn't get the big headlines, but it's probably going to make them the most money in the short term. They've integrated GPT 5.2 directly into ServiceNow's AI control tower.
So for anyone not in enterprise IT, what does that actually mean?
It means invisible AI. It takes the AI out of a chat window and puts it directly into the workflow. It's in the background, route IT tickets, updating HR databases, handling customer service requests automatically.
So back to the action theme. It's high-volume, invisible automation.
Exactly. It's boring, it's unsexy, and it is going to be incredibly profitable.
Okay, now for the sci-fi. January 15th. OpenAI invests in a company called Merge Labs, a $252 million seed round.
This is the one that's, yeah, it's a lot to process. Merge Labs works on brain-computer interfaces, BCI.
Like Neuralink, putting chips in people's brains.
Same idea, different approach. Neuralink is invasive surgery. Merge is working on less invasive methods using things like ultrasound. But the goal is the same.
To get rid of the keyboard.
Think about it. We just talked about Cerebras making the chip faster. But the biggest bottleneck left in the system is us. Our fingers. We type at, 40 words per minute. We think instantly.
So if OpenAI builds a model that thinks instantly, and Cerebras builds a chip that runs instantly,
then the only thing slowing it all down is you. Investing in Merge is a signal that they see the human body as the final bottleneck to be solved.
wow. Okay, that brings us to the final thought here. We're looking at a company that is hitting a $20 billion run rate. It's checking our IDs based on our grammar, and it's planning to power it all with its own energy grid.
It's not a startup anymore. It's an industrial power. And the CFO, Sarah Friar, she used this phrase this week that I think just nails the whole thing. She talked about capability overhang.
Capability overhang, meaning the tech can do more than we're using it for.
Exactly. It's the gap between what the AI models can actually do today and what we as a society are asking of them. She's basically saying we are leaving enormous value on the table because our habits just haven't caught up to the tools yet.
That's a wild thought. We're all here debating ads and $8 subscriptions, and from their perspective, we haven't even really started using the machine.
And their plan is to just keep building a bigger and bigger machine until we do.
A truly pivotal week. We'll be watching to see if that overhang closes or if it just keeps getting wider. Thanks for diving deep with us.